All right, everyone, let us continue. So throughout, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, throughout the past while, we were actually talking about a number of different things related to ibadah, related to tawheed. And we said three different elements, and we're going to do it again just because it's really important to understand of what we're talking about. So here we go. We said that tawheed is all about one. Oops, hold on. Let me make a small one. We said that tawheed is all about one, in where you're believing in the existence, in the essence of the Lord Almighty. And then two, we said it's basically regarding worshiping only the Lord Almighty. And we said worship is actually constituting of ritual and legislature. So we said ritual and legislature. So what does that mean? That actually means in how you actually do your spiritual worship and how you actually live and consider the different principles that you live based on. And the third one is actually in relating to the names and attributes. In other words, what and who is God, and how do you consider and understand the different things about Allah Almighty. So when we talked about the part, and let's take it back right there, but when we talked about the part about worship and legislature and ritual, that actually needed more information, because what does ritual actually mean? So that actually takes me to taking you into another slide that actually contains some important things that we need to understand in terms of worship. What does worship really look like? And why do we even have to engage in worship? So in Islam, worship is a lot more comprehensive than just taking a moment of, seclusion in the masjid, because in Islam, your body and your mind and your soul and your heart, they're actually going together. They're one. So you cannot think that what you eat is not related to your spirituality, or what you look at is not related to your spirituality. They all have an impact. It all rubs on you. What you look at will affect your focus and your relationship with Allah Almighty. What you're listening to, what you're eating, what you're drinking, what and how you do reproduction, every single thing, because you as a whole, you're actually one whole. You cannot connect or you cannot disconnect and separate your spirit from your body and say they're not connected. Whether you like it or you don't, it's all intertwined together. So when you look at things, it will still rub on your heart. When you listen to something, it will rub on your heart. Why? Because you are one whole. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was actually telling you that, hey, all those different things, they'll actually have their effect on you. Now, here's one thing, is that you will actually have many people, for example, you'll have some people that will do this meditation and prayer, and other people will say, well, in order for me to live a spiritual kind of life, a religious life, the kind of life, I have to separate myself from the modern life and live in some far away cave or whatever. And other people, they think, oh, it's all about me taking a moment to do that contemplation and that humming. And you've got other people that would say, well, I'm going to search on my own for life and answers about life. Well, in the end, is that you will not be able to get those answers, because your mind was actually designed to search about materialistic things. Why things function that way? What's the importance of the earth and how our body functions, and is not actually designed to understand or even figure out things that are beyond physics. What is beyond physics? In other words, they are beyond what you cannot touch. And Allah Almighty is definitely beyond that. So when we look at your own body, what is antagonist? So antagonistic, and where Are they fighting? Is my soul fighting my body? And then therefore I have to make sure that I mortify and make sure that I have to kill my body. And therefore, for me to get spiritually elevated? Absolutely not. Islam tells you in order to grow in your spirituality, you also go through your body. So what does that actually mean? Islam tells you that spirituality and your own body and your own mind is basically not in conflict, but is actually going together, in where your own self, your own spirituality is related. And in fact, your own body is also a tool to help you get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your body is a tool to help you get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in that situation, you could see that your spirituality is not an issue of psychological healing. It actually is the core. In other words, when we want to talk about spirituality, or we want to talk about worship, you cannot say it's a moment of seclusion. It's not a moment of seclusion. It's actually, even during those moments when you're eating, you can actually be in a state of spirituality, in a state of ibadah. Why? Because those philosophies that think that, yes, worship is supposed to be different, in where they would think that the body and the spirit are somehow at war with one another. But that's not the case in Islam. They're not at war with one another. But it is true that the body wants to seek certain level of ecstasy. It feels good to eat sugar. It feels good to do a lot of different things. So the body, if you feed it that way, you feed it for more and more pleasure, it will actually want more and more of it. Your spirituality, on the other hand, and pay attention to this one, especially the younger generation. Here's what happens, especially the younger generation. Listen to this. For the body, all right, and your body will actually convince you that you want more of something. And your body will actually send you signals to your brain. It's feeling good. Your brain will actually ask you to get more. But if you keep on feeding it more, it will actually take you to your own suicide. How? If you keep on feeding your body, you're going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger, more and more sugar. You will get diabetes, heart problems, and the list goes on and on. It's not just in food, but that's also in every single type of pleasure. Your body is not designed to actually carry more of this pleasure. If you give it too much of that pleasure, your body will crash. Your body will crash. What happens to a lot of teenagers, and we've said it before, what happens to a lot of teenagers is that they go, and because their body is new to them, the development of their body is new to them. So their body sends them these signals. It's yummy. It's enjoying. It's pleasurable. They will want more of it because that's their first encounter. Just like a child, just like a baby. The first time you give them sugar, wow, they will want more and more, and then they'll start wanting to attack you to get more of it. Your body as a teenager, when it first develops certain things in you, your body as a teenager starts to develop some of those feelings because it is new. So that's why when you transition into the age of teenagehood, Islam, that's why even gave you an extra bonus an extra bonus to the point that if you were doing great in practicing your Islam, even during the zenith of what your body is manipulating you into, that you're actually going to be shed by the shade of Allah Almighty because you had passed even the zenith of manipulation, which is during teenagehood. That's why when you actually hear a lot of times teenagers would say, hey, you don't understand me. You don't understand how it feels, etc. It's like, yes, I am 43, but I was 13 one day.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was 14, trust me. And I was 15 a long time ago. I know it's very long time, but it was still yesterday, not very long time. At least I feel it like it was yesterday. All right. To you, it's been a long time, but to me, I still remember every single thing. All right. So what happened? Many times our body is manipulating us to make us think that if we were to get more and more and more of it, that we're going to get into the feeling of an absolute ecstasy, absolute pleasure. If only I would take more. If only I would consume more. I'm sure if I would get this much pleasure by eating a chocolate that is this big, I am sure if I were to get a chocolate that is this big, the pleasure is going to be even more. That's how our body would manipulate us. That's how our body would manipulate us. And that's the beginning. And that's how we get into addiction. It becomes kind of like that slide that we talked about. Our body takes us into addiction. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, listen to this. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, listen, your true happiness is not in what your body is manipulating you into, because that's when your body will crash. If you were to get that amount and that much of pleasure, your body will crash. So what are you looking for? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, listen, your true happiness is not in feeding your body. Your true happiness is in feeding your ruh, your spirit. Why? Because your body is not completely all what you are. Your body is one side of you, which is why, listen to this, which is why your body decomposes when you die, but your spirit does not. Because what you really are is not the outer part of you. This is one side of you. That decomposes. What remains is your spirit. Even when you die, it is your spirit that you remains. So what really should I be focused on in feeding? ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. By the remembrance of your Lord Almighty, that's how you will get that content, that satisfaction, that happiness. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَعْمَى. And whoever turns away from, the word was dhikri. What is dhikri? The remembrance of the Lord Almighty. But what does remembrance actually mean? By recognition of the Lord Almighty. 2, by the worship. 3, by living the principle of the Lord Almighty. A person, if they were to distance themselves away from the dhikr of the Lord Almighty, then they had not fed themselves. Then their spirit, فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا, then they will have a life of emptiness. A life of emptiness, a life of depression, a life of nothing. Why? Because what you truly are is not your body, it's your ruh. Your body is actually an element. It's a tool to help you feed your ruh. But if you also think that your body is the main focus, your body will be taking your ruh backwards. Because to have that being mentioned right there, let's look at some of the things that I had prepared right there. When you look at some of the things of, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually want us to then disregard our body? No, Islam doesn't tell you to disregard your body and live away from your body. Islam actually tells you your body is actually your tool to get to your spirituality. But be careful, because your body can also be a spiritual denouncer. It can help you. Your body can be a spiritual elevator and can be a spiritual denouncer. You have the power to choose. Do you want hidayat tawfiq? What do you want? Do you want to be guided? Well, you've got one key to control, and that's your body. What decisions are you going to make? Islam is not telling you to reject your body. In fact, Islam tells you, well, you were created male, female, you've got certain things. And that's why Islam tells you, listen, you were born with a pure nature. In other words, you weren't born with a sin. You were actually born with a pure nature. But the pure nature, you will look at so many different things surround you. The Prophet ﷺ said that the trials are actually exposed to the heart. The heart may swallow it, and it will leave a black mark on the heart. Listen to this. Or the heart will reject it, and you will reject that trial. Let's give an example. Give me an example of any fitna. Any fitna. Give me an example of fitna. Money? Money. Food is the biggest fitna? Makes sense, bardo. Money. Let's do money. Let's do money. So let's say Lujain, she sees $100 on the table.
I'll get it.
She'll get it. Oh, she fell into fitna already. That was faster than I thought. She saw $100. All right. She saw $100 on the table. Shaitan is right there telling her, it's $100. Girl, look around. No cameras. The $100 is definitely going to get you a lot of things. Yeah. Jennifer knows. I think Jennifer's like, you've been having a lot of conversation with Shaitan. That's what Jennifer's telling me. Just like, I could see it. Anyhow, Shaitan is like, take that $100. Now, this is a fitna because the $100 does not belong to her. Now, she is right there, although she may not recognize that the $100 was just $100. She may not recognize that by saying, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim," I seek refuge in Allah from the evils of shaitan. Or if she were to actually say, no, it's not mine. I'm going to take the $100 and give it to the imam, or give it to my mother in order to announce that we found some money. In that situation, if she were to take the $100 in her heart, not the actual gland of heart, but in her body, in her heart, if she were to take the $100, it will leave a black mark. This black mark will stay there. If she goes through and encounters another trial, another black mark, another black mark, If she were to actually say, no, mom, I found this $100, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will leave a light in her heart. What does the light and what does the black mark actually do? You recognize right and wrong, not through your eyes, but through your heart. If your heart is black and contaminated, you will be easily manipulated by so many different things, because think of it as the tool, think of it as like a binocular. If your binocular is blurry because it had so many streaks on it, you won't be able to distinguish right from wrong. Your vision is blurry, if not even totally blacking out. If you have been living in haqq, your vision contains light in it. Why? Because you have made the decisions based on two lenses, Quran and Sunnah. You knew that that $100 does not belong to you, and you knew that you should not take it. So what do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts a light in your heart that will help you distinguish right from wrong. Go ahead, my dear.
So would it be haram if you saw $50 were on the table, and then you take it, but then you give it as a sadaqah?
If it's not yours, you can't actually give as a sadaqah. You have to do what is called the ta'rif. What is ta'rif? So let's say I found $50, like you said. I would basically put a sign in the masjid. I found money. I won't say how much it is. I will say, I found money in the masjid. If you lost an amount of money, please call this number. They'll call you. And you'll say, how much is the money? If they said $10,000, you're like, sorry, that's not the money. Thanks for calling though. They didn't know the number.
Say the number also tell you?
But if that was theirs, they would be able to identify it. Same thing with the phone. Somebody said, you said, if you lost a phone, please call this number. And you said, can you give me the descriptions for the phone? It's a red phone. Sorry, I don't have your red phone. Thank you very much for calling though. But if I called you and I said, hey, the phone is actually in a green case, and on the inside, it basically has a picture of my son on the swing, etc. You're like, yep, that's your phone. Got it. You can come back and we'll meet you. And so you can pick up your phone at this location. You would have to leave this sign for a couple days, right? You would have to leave this sign for a couple days. And then if nobody comes and actually asks for the phone, then in that situation, we would have to actually then keep the announcement, don't use the phone until you would at least give it some time to make sure that no one's gonna come and ask for it. That's when you can keep it. But if the amount was big, then in the society that we're in, there's actually the masjid, the police, there's the administration, etc. And not you put the sign, but you might actually need to tell if, for example, you found it in the street, and I found $10,000 in a bag on the street in Brooklyn Park. I would have to go and inform the police station about it. Why? Because if a person lost an amount like that, they would actually go to the police station and ask about it. So the police station would take care of the matter, not you take it. Got it? So it depends on the item. All right, let's move on, you guys, with the spiritual decay. So when we actually look at these black stains in the heart, that's in order to explain, what does it say in the Quran? كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ مَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. What does that mean? That verily, what the actions that actually that were committed by them is really what caused the black rust on their heart. What is it? It's the action. And that actually brings us to this ayah in where it will not only make them have this black dust and black rust on their heart, it will actually let them get lost in life. They couldn't figure out what's right and what's wrong. So they'll start in search of more and more and more of ecstasy. I want to feel the joy. And they'll be actually in search of something that does not exist. Dinosaurs. Dinosaurs. Is that what you were looking for, Jasmine, all these years? Not the dinosaurs?
That's it. Dinosaurs and them.
There's so many dinosaurs. Allah actually.
All right, let's continue.
Did Allah actually.
So of course, what the people that are online, they don't know that we have different age groups. They're the dinosaurs. They were always in search for dinosaurs. And yeah, we'll
So you get to say, Aysha,
from
from fitna to dinosaurs.
fitna to dinosaurs.
Oh no, it ruined my
So
answer,
when
dinosaurs.
we're actually trying to get to our spirituality, what are we actually trying to get to? We're trying to get to one, success in this life and even in the akhirah. So when you're actually trying to feed your ruh, your spirituality, your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, well, that's actually in order for you to gain happiness and success. Because your body is not going to get to you to that happiness and success. Your body is limited into the amount of how much of happiness and success it can handle. But in akhirah, in Jannah, the story is different. Your body was made to only feel happiness and success. Your body in Jannah was only made to feel the happiness and success. In hellfire, your body is made only to feel the sorrow. So therefore, when we actually speak about spiritual decay, or when we talk about tawheed and ubudiyyah and etc., we're actually talking about, what am I trying to get to? What are the different things that can actually cause my spiritual level or my ubudiyyah to actually be contaminated? Number one, our own lust, our own self can actually be the fitna. Our own body and what it wants can be something that can harm your ubudiyyah, your connection with the Lord Almighty. Two, suspicion. You're like, why did you even get into suspicion? Because they were making the wrong decisions in life, and that actually led for them to not recognize the truth. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَن يُؤْمِن بِاللَّهِ يَهْدِ قَلْبَهُ. And whoever believes in Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide their heart. But the second, that they actually go in more and more and more fitan and trials, they will actually start getting that confusion coming in. Anger. Why anger? Because then you're actually losing your ability to think properly and you start making wrong decisions. Now, so how do I actually work on those areas? Well, that's why in Islam, there are actually a number of different things. In order for you to actually grow in your level of Iman, you need two things. It's not enough. If you're living in a home, it's not enough to put beautiful flowers and designs and frames and pictures, but you also have to clean it. You gotta clean it. No one's gonna come and clean your home. You have to do it yourself. So what do I have to clean it from? You gotta clean it from a number of different things. In Islam, there are a number of different things that can actually affect You see the black, you see the heart, and how we said that it acts as the lens for you to recognize the good and the bad. There are marks that make bigger marks and stains than other material. Some things actually make big stains. Other things make smaller stains. But even the smaller stains, if too many small stains, they actually add up to make a big stain. So what are the big stains? The big stains are actually called the major sins. What are the major sins? Number one is associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why is that considered even a big sin? Well, that's because once your recognition is actually outside of what the actual essence that preceded life is, you're going the wrong direction. If you couldn't figure out what made life, then you're not going to be able to figure out where you're heading in life. If you don't know where the starting point is, then you don't know where the end point is. If you don't know where the end point is, then you don't know what you're going to be doing in between. Then you're lost. Then you're lost. It's like a path. You're lost. Second major black stain, killing someone. Why? Because once you kill somebody, you've actually attacked the major thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually created in humanity. And attacking one person, killing one person is like killing all mankind. Two, harming your own body or other people's bodies. So what does that mean? Harming your own or other people's bodies, whether you're punching someone, you're causing them to bleed, you're harming their body. That is actually the second major thing. Or even your body. You should not be harming your body. Or doing any form of fornication or adultery. What is that? It's basically girlfriend and boyfriend and doing things like they are married when they're not. 4, harming the mind in drinking alcohol or drugs. That's the fifth different thing. 5, mistreating or abusing other people's properties, whether that property was an actual money or whether that property was like a car or some other property. To somehow transgress on other people's properties is actually transgressing on your own self. So that actually is what explains that if a person would think that their attack was on that person only, they didn't recognize that they were actually attacking themselves by putting these stains on their own hearts. You see what I'm saying, you guys? So by committing a sin, you might think that you only attacked that person, but technically you actually caused yourself to what? To rust. You contaminated yourself. You actually harmed yourself before harming the other person. Why? How? By putting that rust on your own body. Now, the other part is the other smaller stains. Let's look at the other smaller stains. The smaller stains actually come from the different, what are the 5 senses that we have? Nose,
Hearing.
hearing,
Nose, eyes, mouth.
Touch.
touching,
Hands.
hands, okay,
Smelling.
good. So we have the youngest actually knowing them. So if you're actually listening to things that are haram, that's actually making you get a smaller stain. If you're actually talking your mouth, right? You're saying bad things or you're eating haram things, that's actually a smaller stain. You're basically listening, seeing things that are haram, that's a smaller stain. But remember, even these smaller stains, if you're constantly doing it, they're actually going to be bigger and bigger and bigger stains. Now, there are different stages of how a person is actually strong in their heart. There's different stages. The first stage is the stage of Islam. What is the stage of Islam? The person recognized in their mind that Islam is the right religion, and they started their salah, they started their siyam, they're still in the beginning of their stage. But why aren't they feeling like it's so fun yet to connect with Islam? They're just feeling that it's a bunch of do's and don'ts. Oh, that's because exactly like a person that might be skating, they're going to keep on falling because they have not yet trained themselves to glide in the path of the Lord Almighty. They're still constantly tripping and falling. So all they will see is, I tried to stop myself from haram, but I did it again. I did it again. It isn't until you grow in your iman and faith capacity that you will start to enjoy and feel what it means to be in salah, what it means to be in khushu', what it means. The Prophet ﷺ said, you would not be a believer حتى يكون هواه تبعا لما جئت به, until your own desires are actually desiring what the Prophet ﷺ has come with. You will start to feel that I just don't enjoy listening to haram things. I just don't enjoy not waking up for Fajr. My sleep doesn't even feel good. That's when you have grown in your training and in your faith. Well, there's a different level where the person, they're willing to actually leave the things that even if they might actually enjoy, but they will leave them for the sake of Allah Almighty because they're afraid that they might lose the joy of Iman. Then the level of ihsan, in where they will actually worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as if they could see Allah. What does that mean? Will they actually literally see Allah? No, they will see the magnificence of the Lord Almighty in every single corner that they will look around. And that's why when you look at those levels, so how do I actually grow from this level to this level? And from this level to this level, and from this level to this level. Well, there's no way to grow unless you actually do a spiritual elevation. How? By denouncing and jumping up. Who wants to jump? You want to jump? Mayar, can you jump? But in slow motion. Take that thing out of your mouth. Oh, wait. Do me a jump. Slow motion. Slow motion. Why not? Good. What did she do? She basically had to kneel a little bit, bend on her legs and knees, and then push against the gravity in order to go up. And that's the same way. In order for you to go up in your spiritual elevation, you have to push against your own gravity, against your own pleasures. There's no way for you to go up unless you a little bit give up on what is pulling you down. You have to fight against it. You have to fight against your own whims. You have to fight against what is actually keeping you down, which is your own weight. Now, that is why when we're looking at the spiritual elevators and spiritual therapy, there's no way unless when we're speaking about that in where you actually take the moment to do tahliyah and takhliyah. Let me go for the takhliya first. There are certain things that you have to give up on, which are the sins that we had mentioned in killing, harming someone else's body, etc. So how can I now, since I wanted to clean up, I don't do the haram things. I want to clean up. I did the cleaning and I didn't kill anybody. Did you clean anybody, Jasmine? No, I never did so either. All right. So now how can I grow in my faith? Well, here's one thing. Allah, the Prophet ﷺ is telling you, listen, your faith is actually بضع وسبعون شعبة. There are many, many, many things to do in order to actually get into that growth. The highest one is to say, La ilaha illallah. And then the other ones is imatatul adha an tariq. It could be as simple as removing a piece of garbage off the floor. You see it? In other words, it's easy, but you have to take in one very important thing. Fatuma, sakr al-bab. One very important thing. You know what it is? You have to be humble. You have to be humble. How? You start with recognizing haq. Two, you continue with bringing in this connection. What is this connection? The Prophet ﷺ used to make the dua, Allahumma inna nas'aluka fi'l al-khayrat. Ya Allah, I ask you to give me the capacity to do what is good. وَتَرْكِ الْمُنْكَرَاتِ, and to leave and abstain from wronghood. And what else? Who remembers the last one? Who remembers the last one? وَحُبِّ الْمَسَاكِينِ, and to love those that are needy. Why? Because you want to leave your arrogance. Your arrogance cannot be wiped away and washed away unless you learn how to connect and take away the arrogance, and you connect with those that are needy. So what do? Well, you work on tahliya. What can I do? Well, tahliya actually contains one, there are certain things that you have to perform. One, the 5 times, there are certain prayers that you have to do. They're doing that as a ibadah is actually part of it. But that's not enough, because there are certain things that you have to avoid too. You can't just perform. The Prophet ﷺ said, ما أمرتكم به فأتوا منه ما استطعتم. What I ordered you to do as much as you can. وما نهيتكم عنه فانتهوا. And what I ordered you to leave instantly. Why? Because when you want to jump, you don't just jump, you have to go against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered you to leave. What are you leaving in this situation? You're actually leaving your own gravity. But in this situation, in the context that we're in, you're actually leaving the different muharramat. Also, in order to grow up with your ibadah, you also need to include a lot of the different items that you love. Money. You have to include the ibadah in giving money and giving zakah. You also have to include in where you're connecting yourself with the rest of the Muslim community. You're actually connecting yourself to be involved within the ummah, and that is with Hajj. You're also doing that dhikr, the constant dhikr. You guys, dhikr is at many times, unfortunately, not recognized of how important it is. So in Islam, there are actually a number of different things. One, there is a spiritual type of a connection. Spiritual type of connection in where you're doing istighfar, tasbih. What if I can't? That's an easy one to do. If you don't know how to connect yourself, constantly say, La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. If you couldn't say La ilaha illallah, it was too big for you, just say Allah, Allah, Allah. Easy. If you're able to do that, just say Allah, 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 or oh Allah. Or if that was too hard for you, just say, God help me. God help me. God help me. Say it in your own language. God, before you sleep, it was too hard for you to actually say Allahu khalaqani or Allahu khaliqi. Say it in your own language. Before you sleep, God, I'm resting my side to you, God Almighty. When you take my soul, put it with the souls of those that you had blessed. Say it in your own language. Allahu Akbar, Allah.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
So what am I actually fighting? Am I only fighting my body? Or am I also fighting something else? Well, there are a number of different things that you're actually fighting, but I just want to end with this one in where, remember, there are desires that in order to fight off those desires, you actually have to take that initiative. Connect yourself with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do that. And that's where we're looking at the second segment of what we understand in terms of ritual. Next week, inshallah, we'll talk about the legislature part. All right. So, inshallah, I'll be happy to answer any questions, inshallah. Allah yahmiku ya Rabbi. And any questions, you can unmute. We'll allow you to unmute yourselves. And here we go. You can unmute yourselves. We're going to go back to our book, inshallah, next week. I know we didn't have enough time, but inshallah, next week we will be going back to the book that we were doing before, inshallah. And we will be talking about, inshallah, shirk next week and the definitions of shirk and the different elements of shirk and so forth. So here we go here, the outright acts of worship, the obligatory refraining from the forbidden, all these different areas. I did actually think of doing a test. Yep. All right. So inshallah, we will be, inshallah, doing a test. Inshallah. I guess no questions. They can mute themselves if they want to. Is there anybody that has any questions? Go ahead, Sabah. Go ahead, Sabah. Whoever wants to ask a question, you can go ahead. Sabah? Yes, ma'am. Not next week, because I will be giving you guys certificates, inshallah.
Yeah, give us some
Inshallah. And I do also want those that actually have high grades to actually start going for prison chaplaincy. Was that scary? Seriously? You don't have to go if you're afraid.
Assalamu alaikum, Ustada.
Wa alaikum salam. Sabah, go ahead.
I had a question about ihsan. I wanted to know just some advice on how to achieve ihsan.
Oh, that's a whole lecture. That's a whole lecture. It would be a lot easier to talk about achieving iman than achieving ihsan. Because if you achieve iman, you will achieve ihsan. It basically is the next step. Let's call it, the more trained you are in working on your iman, ihsan is the default later on. So the more trained you are in your iman, the more ihsan, the ihsan will be the second following level that will come with more training in iman.
Okay.
All right, any other question? Is it multiple choices? You guys want multiple choices?
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's like in
Okay.
English because I don't speak no Arabic.
Oh, I was actually thinking of putting it in Japanese. Of course, it's going to be in English. The lecture is in English, so I'm not going to put the questions in Arabic.
She's fluent in Arabic, right?
Am I Arabic?
No, fluent in, right?
I'm fluent in Arabic? Yeah, I'm fluent in Arabic, very fluent in Arabic.
You learn in Palestine though.
Yeah, I'm fluent in Arabic. I'm Arabic
Then
native.
making my kids speak Somali when they were
Once,
little.
no, you gotta, learning languages was a matter that my dad took very seriously. He used to beat us with the shoes if we don't actually speak in Arabic. Yeah, shoes can be sometimes
No,
healthy.
they don't want to.
She doesn't want to take her Somali.
No,
You gotta, it's
but
really
they have to
important.
try it too, right?
You have to, absolutely.
You take 1 second.
Allah يحفظكم يا ربي. So we will actually be praying Asr and barakallahu fikum. See you all next week. Assalamu
Thank you,
alaikum.
Aisha.
Allah yabarak.
Jazakallah khair.
And-
Which we literally like. I